I've been walking these streets for 25 years, pounding the pavements. I know what's going on in the back rooms. I know what's going on in the boardrooms. What's the Deal is the place where the purple people hang out. We're the only show on television that allows a Democrat, a Republican, and an independent to come down and talk it out. The #1 show on television that always focuses on crypto. We tell you what's the real deal.
Caravan of vehicles.
We're at the Pitch Shift conference. We're breaking down the news of what's the deal with blockchain. Welcome to What's the Deal? I'm John Tobacco. Well, we remember the dire economic predictions that took place the day after the election. We were told the stock market would tank under Trump. The economy would crater. Surely the mass exodus of intellectuals and enlightened, politically correct society types were fleeing to Canada, coupled with illegal aliens slowing down their migration into the country, would lead to the economy's most valuable players sitting on the sidelines. That didn't happen. Shortly after the election, I was on Fox News with Neil Cavuto, and I even said, with the market at 20,000 in 1 year under Trump's policies, tax policies, and decreasing regulation, the market would go to 25,000. Take a look at this.
See this growth continuing?
Oh my God, Neil, 10 years I've been coming on with you. I've never said anything positively wrong about a stock or a market. I've always been able to find a way to see where the overvalued situations were. But I saw at 20,000, I saw 25. At 25, I see right now this repatriation, all this money coming back. I did call the Donald yesterday and say 30.
Then we're told that the president's policies on tariffs with China, aluminum tariffs, steel tariffs, auto tariffs, would lead to a trade war. It would only drive up prices. American goods would be too expensive for foreigners, and surely that would tank the economy. That didn't happen. Then we were told that the most significant tax reform legislation in 3 decades would lead to nothing more than a sugar high for the economy, and that any growth we would get would just be temporary. And finally, as the Federal Reserve raised interest rates and ended the era of free money for the wealthy, the smartest economist among us said, this is it. The days of wine and roses are over. But sure enough, even with higher interest rates, tariffs going up, a president that has no problem ignoring the economists have always made it clear that they're the smartest ones in the room. Our economy, under Donald Trump, is thriving. The Dow Jones just crossed the 26,000 mark. Unemployment is lower than it's been in half a century. And all the while, we've ended the asset bubble days of the Bush and Obama years. But this week, former Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen said the president simply doesn't have a grasp of macroeconomic policy. Come on, Janet. After 2 years of him proving all the so-called experts wrong, the economy is thriving. What's the deal? Let me ask you. At this point, would you rather listen to Donald Trump or Janet Yellen on the economy? I'm with Donald Trump. After a brief market downturn at the end of last year, the Trump bump is alive and well. Are there some areas of the economy that we need to be concerned about? Absolutely. And we'll be exploring them on this show, not only today, but in the coming weeks. But as more economists keep telling you that a recession is right around the corner, I'm telling you, don't bet on it. Even with this thriving economy and incredible progress on the world stage on national security, like fighting ISIS, denuclearizing North Korea, it may seem to me like the days of wine and roses are just beginning. The cable news pundits' editorial page of the New York Times never trumped conservatives who've all been totally discredited. And not to mention the left-wing special interests are more interested in highlighting the president's potential legal problems. And that's part of what we're going to explore today with our legal panel. For our all-star legal panel tonight, we're joined on What's the Deal by Susan Settembrino, distinguished attorney and legal analyst, former prosecutor, and the author of The Unchecked Power Guide, a book showing exactly how much of a sham the legal system is. And as she said, she wrote the book on it. And John Boston, he joins us again. John is a New York and Florida attorney with significant intellectual property expertise, entertainment expertise, criminal defense, and he's a legal analyst for us right here on What's the Deal, my Legal Eagles. Thank you for joining me tonight. Boz, welcome back.
Thank you for having us, JT.
Thank you.
Susan, you are livid at what is happening with the Mueller probe. You wrote the book on it. You saw this coming. Give me your rundown on what the hell is happening to our legal system with this special counsel.
Well, I think because there's no oversight and the Senate has never confirmed him, the court is basically saying that because the person who picked him was confirmed by the Senate, so he could just pick a special counsel. But I think it's very dangerous to have someone and give them so much power, secrecy, and to enable them to create an investigation. Investigations, people don't realize, they say, what's the big deal? It's not charges, it's just an investigation. But investigations themselves can be weaponized. They can destroy people. They can take years. They can ruin their reputation. They could, and it could be based on nothing,
So
as
Roger
we know.
Stone is going to be featured a little later on in tonight's show. He's under gag order. Okay, and one of these residual effects that you're talking about is a guy like Roger Stone. He's in the Trump orbit. He's been, I think, unfairly accused, and the political system has weaponized the legal system against him.
Well, look how he was arrested. I mean,
The
look how
arrest
it
alone
happened. I
was
mean, come
intimidation.
on, that was.
But John, most recently, he had a limited gag order, and now the judge was unhappy with something he put on social media. So now he has a full gag order, and you know, like you said, Susan, he's spending hundreds of thousands of dollars defending himself against 5 process crimes, basically. And now, you know, he's got a defense fund set up, as we've talked about right here on What's the Deal, the StoneDefenseFund.com. And John, now they've gagged him. So one weapon that he had to kind of go out there and help him raise money to fight the government was going to the media and promoting his defense fund. Now they've gagged him on that. What, you have experience here. Is this another weapon in the government's arsenal?
This is one thing that I did look into, and the judge gave him a major break, actually. What he did, and he was begging for forgiveness because he exercised poor judgment, let's face it. He put up a picture with a federal judge in front of crosshairs, which are the sights of a rifle. And he argued that it was inadvertent and he didn't realize it, and the judge could have obviously incarcerated him for quite some time as a result of this, while an investigation continued as to whether or not he was really threatening a member of the judiciary, which is a terrible offense. And the judge said, look, I'm not going to put you in jail. I'm just going to increase this limited gag order to a full gag order. And he said, look, I got to earn a living. And she allowed him to send emails out to certain people seeking funds and claiming innocence.
Susan, last week, a federal judge ruled against Andrew Miller. Roger
It was not a good week, yes.
No, and that's Roger Stone's former right-hand man, his aide-de-camp. And he was arguing that because Robert Mueller was put into the special counsel role without being vetted,
Yes.
that his powers, that he didn't have the authority to subpoena Andrew Miller.
Because
Rod Rosenstein
was confirmed by the Senate, that he can then go and pick Mueller. And I really think there's something wrong with that reasoning, because Mueller, just because you are confirmed by the Senate, you weren't confirmed by the Senate to necessarily pick
A special
counsel under these circumstances. And for what reason? What was the reason that he was chosen? What's the scope? I mean, he had a lot of power to pick Mueller, and the Senate did not really give him that power to do that.
There has to be some mechanism. I mean, without researching the mechanism that's in place now, there has to be some mechanism, JT, where the Department of Justice appoints a special counsel. I mean, the procedure is there.
Well, I think going forward, they're probably going to put some more hard and fast rules around who can appoint a special counsel. I think the government and I think the American people have learned a great lesson that when you just allow a wide open fishing expedition, you have this case that carries on
Well,
and
that,
on
that's
and
just
on.
it. It's not only about, it doesn't matter who's respected. Nobody is above reproach, number one. And you are allowing somebody to spend millions of dollars and consume the president's time and the public's time and the focus of our country on something that really there has to be a substantial basis to start with. There has to be a confined parameter not to go on a fishing expedition because of all, it's very dangerous to allow somebody to do this.
Unchecked power.
Unchecked power,
Yeah,
exactly. To have no oversight, he has no oversight over him. Who's checking him?
Quick change of gears here. Go to another topic that's been heavily in the news. Jussie Smollett is this actor from Empire. And he alleged that he was attacked at 2 a.m. by two men wearing Make America Great Again hats. And they beat him up in the street and they put a rope around his neck. And the left-wing media was going wild about how Donald Trump has got people up in arms, that they're starting these attacks. And lo and behold, the facts come out this week from Chicago PD that Jussie Smollett hired two of his friends to stage an attack and put a rope around his neck. And he said that they tried to lynch him and they attacked him and they were calling him racist terms and they were calling him sexually insensitive terms, homosexual, etc. And it turns out it was all a farce. Chicago PD came out and said that the brothers were paid $3,500 by check by him to attack them, and they have them on video buying masks and tape and the rope they put around his neck. Tell me what you think.
First, I want to start off by saying this is very dangerous, that people race bait. People have been killed in the past for race baiting. This is very dangerous, and this should be something that we should all, there should be no partisan lines on this.
The police department of Chicago put manpower, resources into going out and trying to find out who attacked Jussie Smollett.
This announcement today recognizes that Empire actor Jussie Smollett took advantage of the pain and anger of racism to promote his career. Why would anyone, especially an African-American man, use the symbolism of a noose to make false accusations?
They have one of the highest murder rates in the entire country, and cops were taking off tracking down those murderers to track down someone who beat up Jussie Smollett, and it was all a roost. I mean, is that almost worse than the crime he alleged to do that?
I mean, this has always been a sore spot with me. When people make up whether it's sexual harassment or rape or race allegations, I think it's the worst of the worst because it sets back every law and every method that's put in place to combat these atrocities. And then when somebody makes something up like this, it just sets everything back.
Going back just a few weeks ago, the New England Patriots won the Super Bowl. And apparently to celebrate, Robert Kraft went up to his home in Jupiter, Florida, and hopped in the car with one of his buddies and shot down to the Orchids of Asia Spa, which was under surveillance by federal authorities for a human trafficking ring. And it turns out that allegedly Robert Kraft was caught on videotape soliciting a prostitute. What does this mean for Robert Kraft, his ownership of the New England Patriots? Is he in big trouble right now? This is a human trafficking ring.
Who knows? I mean, it seems like he's in big trouble, but a lot of people seem like they're in big trouble, and somehow they're not in big trouble down the road when you have a lot of money and a lot of influence. We don't know how it's going to play out.
Does power and money get you out of criminal prosecution sometimes?
Yeah, and plus, unfortunately, when women and girls are in the prostitution industry, wrongly, law enforcement did not treat them as the individuals they are. And I have had clients come to me that are in that industry, and they don't want to even press charges because they are of the view that the police and the prosecutors will do something like this. The guy that's the offender gets very lenient treatment, even though these are human beings. They're children of God.
So they fear the humiliation and just
There's a
think,
double
well,
standard,
this is a
JT.
powerful guy. He's not even going to get any time. So why should I even come and talk about it? I personally don't know how it's going to end, but it doesn't sound like Robert Kraft is going to have a very happy ending after this prosecution. Unhappily, we got to end this segment. You're watching What's the Deal? These are our legal experts talking about all the top legal things that are in the news. Susan Settembrino, John Bostany, thank you very much for joining us. We'll have you back hopefully soon. And you stay right there. Watch those commercials. We need our sponsors to know you're there for them. And we're coming back right after this. You're watching What's the Deal, the show that doesn't kneel. Back after this.
Hi, you're watching What's the Deal on Newsmax TV. I'm Frank Morano. Long before I was a world-famous radio producer, a radio talk show host, and TV commentator, I was an astute analyst and operative in the world of politics. So much of what I learned in the world of politics, and I'm not afraid to admit this, comes from the man that some people are describing, at least the federal government is treating him this way, as the El Chapo of American politics. The man who it took 24 FBI agents to take down at 6 o'clock in the morning.
This is exclusive CNN video. This is what happened this morning.
The FBI's pre-dawn raid.
Brand new video of Stone's arrest last month. This unusual video.
One guy with a gun here. One guy with a gun here. Another guy with a cell phone camera and a light filming the whole thing.
And they're slamming on the door.
Apparently, I opened the door. I'm out with my hands up right here.
You've been called everything in the book, but the one thing that I've never heard you called is criminal. And now, as we sit here today in the backyard of your lovely home in Fort Lauderdale, which you're on the verge of losing thanks to this prosecution, take our audience through the pain, the stress of when the feds start slamming on your door at 6:30 in the morning.
Sure, John. First of all, let me point out that I pled not guilty to all of these process crimes, and I will be acquitted and vindicated in court if I can get a fair trial. So, as I have said, I've been under investigation for over 2 years. That means that Robert Mueller and his colleagues have probed into every aspect of my life, my personal life, my family life, my private life, my political life, my business life, my social life, combing through my tax returns, going through my business records. They've interrogated 19 of my current or former associates, some of whom have been dragged before the grand jury, and they still have no evidence whatsoever of Russian collusion, WikiLeaks collaboration, no evidence or proof that I knew in advance about any of the material published by WikiLeaks, either allegedly stolen emails or allegedly hacked emails. I stand accused of a series of process crimes for which I am not guilty.
So this is mob with agents right here, everywhere you can see. Cars, tents, everything.
At approximately 5:50 in the morning, I heard a pounding on the door. I was in the second story. My wife was asleep in the bedroom.
So there's a whole caravan of vehicles. CNN was positioned right here. This is where the CNN truck was.
It's dark out there. I turn on the light. I'm staring down the barrel of 2 assault weapons aimed at my chest. I put my hands where they can see them because I don't want to get shot. I step out. They say, put your hands behind your back. I do. They handcuff me. They sent 29 FBI agents who completely surrounded the house. There were 17 vehicles in the front yard, including 2 armored vehicles. They sent a smaller group to go get bin Laden.
Now we're going to go to New York to my executive producer, my right-hand man, Frank Morano, who's got a couple questions for Roger Stone. Frank, welcome.
Roger, I have to ask you about some controversial comments made by that paragon of virtue, a man that knows a thing or two about being wrongfully accused, O.J. Simpson. He was stopped and asked first about the president's performance, and then unsolicited, he chose to discuss you. This was O.J. Simpson talking to TMZ the other day.
I got raided by the FBI in Miami. 30-something FBI agents, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I had more than dogs. I had kids there. They were a little traumatized. To try to compare it to El Chapo and bin Laden, hey man, bin Laden was carried out in a bag, not walked out in handcuffs, so, you know, man up. Stop crying.
Something tells me you disagree with that.
Well, pardon me if I decline to take political, legal, or public relations advice from a guy who most likely murdered 2 people. What I was doing, of course, was comparing the size of the force that they sent after me, 29 armed FBI agents with the 12 agents that were sent in to kill or capture bin Laden. John, I intend to fight, but it's a question of whether I have the resources. I'm up against a multi-billion-dollar monolith, the federal taxpayers, because you're financing my prosecution. Every taxpayer in America is. If I can raise the money, I can win. People need to go to stonedefensefund.com because I'm like David up against Goliath, and I will fight, but I need the resources.
Well, Roger's been on almost every media outlet. This interview and other behind-the-scenes things that Roger and I have talked about, and we're going to go to some lunch right now, are going to be coming at you for the next few months, every chance we have, so that we can remind you he's going up against the government. 85% of the people who go up against the government lose and wind up in jail. We want Roger to be in that 15%. He's going to need your help. He's going to have our help. You're watching What's the Deal? Roger Stone, thank you very much.
Roger Stone has been gagged. He's been muzzled. He's not able to talk, which is all the more reason we need you to go to stonedefensefund.com and help Roger fight against a tremendous injustice.
Welcome back. Well, we had our legal eagles, and now when we get through the politics, I love to get down to the good stuff, the new economy, and tonight we have one of the world-renowned experts in that space. We have Kiana Daniel with us, and Kiana is a world-renowned cryptocurrency expert. She's the CEO of InvestDiva.com, and she's also the author of Cryptocurrency for Dummies. Kiana's coming to us tonight on Skype, and Frank Morano joins me here in the crypto segment. Kiana, thanks for giving us a few minutes tonight. I'm sorry you're on Skype. We got to get you in the studio. Tell us what's going on with you and what's going out there in the community as you see it.
For those of you who are in this field, you know that the blockchain technology is the blood and the heart, basically, of cryptocurrencies. If you say, for example, let's say, comparing email and the internet, email is a byproduct of the internet, but you can do a bunch of other things on the internet. You can watch porn, you can do whatever. But with blockchain, it's the same thing.
We don't usually get the porn into the cryptocurrency segment, but I like it. Kiana, one of the things that I've been trying to do from the very beginning with our audience is keep them aware, keep them educated, so that people can start understanding, hey, if you're going to invest in this, at least educate yourself. Know that the risks are very high, the rewards could be high. But I think one fundamental thing that we've been trying to pound our audience on, Frank, is that the blockchain is really the main event, right? And Bitcoin and these other cryptocurrencies are use cases, but most people don't understand that they're two separate things. The Bitcoin trades on the blockchain with a number of hundreds and now maybe thousands of other use cases. What do you specifically focus on Crypto for Dummies to bring your readers up to speed?
Right. So that's exactly what you said at the beginning. That's exactly what I focus on, because the reason why we saw the bubble and the burst in 2017 is that people were just getting in it with no education at all, just based on FOMO and fear of missing out. And that's the reason why it went all the way up. And I know so many people who bought at 20,000 and watched their asses just vanish in front of their eyes within a month or so. So number one is education. And as you said, exactly, blockchain is the real deal. That's what people should be focusing on. It's something like, if you consider cryptocurrency as some sort of a cross between an asset like a stock and a currency like the US dollar, then you have to do the fundamental research before you get yourself into it. You have to understand the blockchain behind it. You have to understand its use cases and does this blockchain, even if it's super awesome, is it really going to need the cryptocurrency? So those are the questions that people should be answering. And those are the things that I cover in my new book, in Cryptocurrency Investing for Dummies.
Is there a way to use the blockchain technology to enable things like internet voting in a safe, secure manner that's not going to be hacked?
100%. That is one of the main reasons why I actually got interested in it, because of the whole shenanigans that has been going on about our elections and fraud and whatever that is going on. It is not going to go happen now. If somebody tells you, hey, go vote on the internet, it's not happening yet. So don't fall for that. But that is absolutely one of the best use cases for preventing election fraud and making it easier to vote.
Do you view the fact that cryptocurrency can be used to trade with countries that you can't simply wire cash to as a reason that cryptocurrency is actually going to be more likely to thrive?
Right. That is an excellent question. And the fact is that I believe cryptocurrency is going to be mainstream very soon, but the US is going to be the last place that is going to really adopt, because it's the place that has the highest level of democracy, and people really don't see the use cases for cryptocurrency.
Talk about, if you could, how important it is for innovation and entrepreneurialism to thrive using blockchain.
Right, so that is when the US comes into play, because that is what the US is about, capitalism and entrepreneurs who want to thrive. And I think that is the hook that we can get entrepreneurs and the US really on the blockchain and cryptocurrency wave. Fortunately or unfortunately, the regulations are getting stricter and stricter in this area, especially in the US. But I think eventually, at least within 10 years, we're going to see real magic happening within the blockchain technology, and we're going to see the survivors, because right now we have over 2,000 cryptocurrencies. Not all of them are going to survive.
Yeah, there's too many. And Frank, we've been talking about this for a while, that the last, maybe 14, 15, 16, 17, it was like the Wild West out there. There were ICOs, there were utility tokens, there were all these products that were maybe legal, not maybe legal. And we kind of been talking all along about we want some regulation, because once the government puts some lines around and says, well, here's what you can do, then you can really start to innovate. I think that's coming.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering, do you think the explosion in different crypto exchanges and different uses of the technology is part of what's led to the much ballyhooed, much talk about dip in the value of Bitcoin? I'd be curious what both of you think about that.
Well, Danielle, I think the government regulation, this is one time as a free market capitalist, where I think regulations are actually good, because there's some bright lines where you know where the boundaries are. And I think as regulation gets a little more clear in the US, that's when you'll start to get some institutional adoption.
Right, absolutely. And I agree with you, because regulations are important, I think, for mass education, because now people are scared. They got in without education, they got burned, and now there's got to be something to motivate them to come back in. And it's the regulations, because now they're like, okay, I don't know anything about it. Or maybe it'll be my book. We'll see. But if I educate them enough to get back in, but they need something, because they're scared right now, especially in the US. So I'm for it to some extent.
So give us, it's early 2019. Give us your forecast for the great advances we'll see in this year in blockchain and cryptocurrency, in your view.
Right. So the good thing is the crypto market crash really helped the technologies focus, because in 2017, everything was going up so fast, they didn't have time to really enhance and optimize their services. We saw it with the exchanges like Kraken. They didn't have the ability to serve all the people because it was just happening so fast. So now that they've had this time to focus on the technology side of things, I really think we're going to see upside, not if not in 2019, maybe the year after. I personally believe that we're going to see another shift to the downside when it comes to Bitcoins and other cryptocurrencies before the real massive bullish movement begins. But I think we can only go up from here, and this is just the beginning.
You heard it here first on What's the Deal, that one of the world-renowned experts and author of Crypto Investing for Dummies is telling you, when you're doing your homework, be ready for another dip. Recently, Bitcoin has popped its head above 4,000. There's been some nice price action. But I tend to agree with what she's saying, that this thing's going to come down a little bit more, stabilize. And I think the longer it stays at these levels, Frank, even coming down a little bit, it builds some support around a real price range. And these big spikes to 15 and 20,000, that was all hype.
Well, as a layman, and I know we're short on time, but my question for both of you, I think, would be, if you're not as educated in this as you guys are, how do you know where to put your money? Let's say you're interested in cryptocurrencies and you want to diversify your portfolio with some sort of an investment in that. Where do you go?
Well, if you ask me, you go to investdiva.com, and there you can get all the advice and counsel you need, broken down into regular man or woman form, stuff that you can understand, make it simple for you at home. And you're watching What's the Deal. We're always here to break down what's the deal. And if you have an issue, a question, a problem that you need answered, you can always come to us. But now you can also go to investdiva.com, and you got one of the leading experts in the world right there to give you a little advice and counsel also. Any final thoughts before leaving us on your first visit to What's the Deal?
Well, first of all, thank you for the shout out. Again, I totally agree with you. Education, 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 no matter who tells you what. Even if I tell you, hey, go buy Bitcoin right now, you got to know your risk tolerance. You got to know where you stand financially and where you want to go before you invest in anything, let alone cryptocurrencies. And I'm really excited to be on your show next time. This is really fun.
All right, well, we'll check back in with you very soon. Keep us abreast of any great things that are going on with investdiva.com. If you're watching at home, you want the simple breakdown on what's happening in the cryptocurrency world, go out there and get Cryptocurrency Investing for Dummies. You're watching What's the Deal? It's the show that doesn't kneel. We've been in Florida for the last couple of weeks. Frankie brought you some of the best stuff with Roger Stone, never seen before footage. And don't forget, friend of the show, Roger Stone, is under federal indictment. And if you want to help him fight for his case and his cause, you can go to stonedefensefund.com. And if you want to know anything about cryptocurrencies, go to investdiva.com or get the book, Cryptocurrency Investing for Dummies.
South Beach, Miami, Florida. Beaches, bodies, and blockchain? What's the Deal was on the ground for the 2019 Pitch Shift Conference from the One Hotel. Before we give you the goods on everything that took place at the conference, let's explore what's the deal with blockchain technology. A blockchain allows digital information to be distributed but not copied. Blockchain technology has created the backbone of a new type of internet. Originally devised for the digital currency Bitcoin, the tech community is now finding other potential uses for the technology.
The ledger, like bookkeeping, entries, debits, and credits. And the ledger is the fundamental way that we go about storing information about transactions today.
The blockchain is an incorruptible digital ledger of economic transactions that can be programmed to record not just financial transactions, but virtually everything of value.
What if there were not only an internet of information, what if there were an internet of value? And where every kind of asset, from money to music, could be stored, moved, transacted, exchanged, and managed.
Imagine a spreadsheet that is duplicated thousands of times across a network of computers. Then imagine that this network is designed to regularly update this spreadsheet. That is the basic premise of the blockchain. Information held on the blockchain exists as a shared and open database.
We have come to a conclusion as a species that I have to trust you in order to transact with you. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, trust is the fundamental currency of commerce.
I believe we are now entering a further and radical evolution of how we interact and trade.
The blockchain database isn't stored in any single location, meaning the records it keeps are truly public and easily verifiable. No centralized version of this information exists for a hacker to corrupt. Hosted by millions of computers simultaneously, its data is accessible to anyone on the internet.
This creates an immutable, unforgeable record of all of the transactions across this network. This record is replicated on every computer that uses the network.
A blockchain cannot be controlled by any single entity and has no single point of failure. By design, the blockchain is a decentralized technology. This revolutionary technology is already changing the world.
You can't hack it. This creates the conditions for prosperity for potentially billions of people. And this is infinitely more secure than the computer systems that we have today. Blockchain, that's how it works.
Businesses are applying blockchain technology to innovate their industries. Banking, shipping, advertising, security, and even voting are just a small sample of ways blockchain technology has brought the future to here and now. When What's the Deal returns, we'll go inside the 2019 Pitch Shift Conference and take a look at the leaders at the forefront of this brave new world. We'll be right back from South Beach. What's the Deal was on the scene at the 2019 Pitch Shift Conference at the One Hotel in Miami, Florida. The Pitch Shift Conference was a one-of-a-kind event in the world of blockchain. The core mission is to raise awareness and educate the world on the power of this transformative technology. Founded by Dan Viola, a partner at the law firm Sadis & Goldberg, the Pitch Shift Conference welcomed a diverse group of distinguished thought leaders and experts, including crypto and institutional investors, bankers, attorneys, government officials, service providers, as well as representatives of blockchain architect startups and enterprise companies for an unparalleled series of discussions and networking opportunities. Blockchain technology brings a fundamental change in the approach to how companies conduct business and will forever alter industries globally. With thousands of applications, it promises a tectonic shift in technology development and our daily lives. Let's take a look at some of the presenters and who they represented. DexFreight is a shipping company powered by an ecosystem of open source protocols using smart contracts and machine learning to deliver unprecedented visibility, transparency, and a trust layer that is sorely lacking in today's logistics process. The platform features an industry-first, blockchain-based, verified identity and objective reputation system that allows shippers and carriers to meet, find business, and negotiate deals in a peer-to-peer marketplace with less friction. Hector Hernandez is one of the co-founders.
In the background, the magic happens when they assign the funds to what this is a cash on delivery transaction, an escrow transaction. It converts to the stable coin and goes in the contract. They don't see it. Yes, actually, we have a couple of partnerships in the making with MakerDAO and other ones. But yeah, that's we owe it to the people that are trusting us with the transaction to have several alternatives.
The Bermuda Business Development Association is an independent public-private partnership funded by both the Bermuda government and the private sector. Established in April 2013, the agency was represented by Kevin Richards, Concierge and Business Development Manager, and his team. The BDA is governed by a board of directors comprising senior industry professionals representing the diversity of Bermuda's financial services sector. The BDA works closely with Bermuda's public and private sectors to help empower the economy and enhance the island's global reputation. The overall mission is to retain and create jobs, promote inward investment, and grow Bermuda's GDP through targeted business development initiatives.
What we provide is access. So we can provide access to the decision makers on the island, and we can make things happen quickly. I think the Premier came back from Davos last December, and we had legislation drafted in 5 months. So when we want things to happen, we can make it happen a lot more quickly than other jurisdictions.
What's the Deal? We'll be back from Miami, Florida with more from the 2019 Pitch Shift Conference.
So we at BitFinance believe that everybody should have access to investments that build wealth. Investments that today are available primarily to the wealthy. We believe that our team, our products, and our technology can make this possible. We also believe that there is an opportunity to massively expand the $15 trillion market for alternative assets. I'm Eli Blatt. I'm a Stanford PhD behavioral scientist, serial entrepreneur, and I'm the founder and CEO of Bitfinance. I also come from a family with a long history in banking. Now, growing up in this kind of family, I got firsthand insight into how financial privilege begets financial access. This was an insight that was reinforced when I began investing, and I realized that my friends did not have access to the same types of investments that I did. Things like hedge funds, private equity, secured debt funds, because they were not accredited investors. In fact, fewer than 5% of investors worldwide have access to these types of investments. Despite such limited participation, alternatives are a $15 trillion market. And the fact that 95% of investors worldwide are excluded is a really significant problem when you consider the fact that alternatives tend to be high performing and uncorrelated with traditional markets, and tend especially to outperform traditional securities during down markets, giving the already wealthy a significant advantage over the rest of the world. This makes Bitfinance and our focus on addressing this an impact investment company per the UN Global Initiative on Wealth and Equity. Bitfinance's goal is to make it easy for everyone to invest in alternative assets using our status as a public benefit corporation and blockchain technology and some creative approaches to solving some of these problems. We will offer fund and asset managers as well as owners the ability to list their funds or assets on our platform. Cloud-based storage is fast and flexible. Blockchain-based storage is immutable and transparent. Now, that immutability and transparency is the answer to why blockchain in this project. And that is because if you look through the history of fraud in finance, and I've written an article on this that's available on Medium, Who Watches the Watchmen, you'll see that throughout history, every instance of fraud has been perpetrated by a lack of transparency. They were promising you returns, but they couldn't show where those returns were coming from. Why? Because the ledgers were centralized. Also in our innovation pipeline is an asset-backed ETF token, and this is a really disruptive concept. The concept here is that we'll do a reverse shell takeover of a publicly traded company. We will tokenize the equity in that company. 100% of the proceeds of the sale of those tokens would go to buy the best assets off of our marketplace. Those assets we can hold and or arbitrage. And because the token is asset-backed, 100% of the proceeds of the sale of the token go into alternative assets. And because the token is tokenized equity of an already publicly traded company, it's purchasable by anyone. That creates no minimum, fully liquid, internally diversified exposure to an array of institutional-grade alternative investments. This is fundamentally disruptive and would level the playing field and would be a great product for both small investors and large investors, because you, with very low costs, get really diversified exposure to a wide array of products. To summarize it all, I really believe that Bitfinance is a fintech blockchain unicorn opportunity. The combination of the very user-friendly user interface platform that is patent pending, that provides a seamless user experience, yet all of the transparency, immutability, and security that blockchain provides is a very compelling combination of factors, not to mention our rockstar team.
I'm John Tobacco, my partner Frank Morano, all our guests tonight. Another great show. You're watching What's the Deal? We'll be back next week, same time, Sundays at 1. Catch you then.